Reload in Rio is just under 2 weeks away, the first big tournament to be played on CGX, and almost every team made roster moves ahead of time. I think there's like 6 worldwide that didn't make any changes. So let's go over how everything is different, starting in North America, and talk about the narratives I'll be paying most attention to as we head into a new league year. This year, NA's back to 10 teams, 5 partners, 3 affiliates, 1 challenger promotion, and 1 Latin American qualifier. You might remember Cruelty from their appearance in Manchester last year, and that core of Ivan, Mutombo, and Pyrox is still together for this run. They've since grabbed Fatal, who used to play with this core way back when, and Skimzy, who went to Copenhagen with 6 Karma back in 2023. Whereas Los last year took some Brazilians up north to play in the NAL because they had a roster spot, Cruelty won an 8-team qualifier to get here over lots of LATAM talent. So I'm firstly curious to see how the NA fanbase accepts that they're now a part of the league. But they will be eternal underdogs. They're entering the Dragon's Den, as most NA teams will either flatten them or outlast them. And LATAM is still looking for its first map win against NA after several losses at the majors. But hopefully that illustrates just how big a deal it'll be if they manage to get upset wins this year, because they'll be playing every game like there's nothing to lose. The Challenger promotion is JJ and company. Snake, Twist, Rival, Emilio, and the man himself, JJ Blastful. If you followed any NA Tier 2, you know just how storybook this journey has been. JJ's been grinding for years, been working with Emilio since the summer, Rival has been a stud for a long time, and both Snake and Twist found their way back into the league after teaming together on LG in 2023. I almost don't care what happens to them in the league at this point. Them just making it means we get a lot of trash talk, whack shield play, and maybe another org coming to town if one decides they want to pick these guys up. It's already cinema that they got promoted to Tier 1. Anything else they do from here is icing on the cake. M80 might have said goodbye to Spoit, but what they lost in a major champ, they gained with 2 more. 80% of the Manchester winning Beast Coast team is back together again after that roster got split down the middle when M80 bought Beast Coast last year. Hot and Cold and Gavin just took 4th at SI, going totally orgless, so it makes sense to bring them back and get a new dynamic with Kino instead of Spirits. But the bigger question to me is Fabian, who's jumping regions again after spending last year in Korea with PSG Talon. I'm more curious if M80 will play more similarly to how they won Manchester, or if Fabian's coaching style will guide them in a different direction. And if so, does it actually work out in the short term? It looks like a wicked roster on paper, and it should make waves immediately. But if it doesn't, I wonder how long it'll take for it to get on track. Spoit's new home is Shopify Rebellion. They let Grixer go for good this time, but the chance to get Spoit doesn't come around very often, and Will could certainly do worse than a team of monsters with a 2-time world champ at the helm. They did go out sooner than most people expected in Boston, both Spoit and SR, but them joining forces right as Ambi's had his best event ever, and Troy continues to be a plant god, just makes this team more of a behemoth than it already was. I feel like they're built to win now. This is a crazy crossover that could have a dream run for NA fans, and that's going to drive expectations through the roof. I saw people putting them top of their power rankings more than a month ago. The anticipation is really high for SR, and if they can't match that anticipation with results, that might be a bigger story than them succeeding. Spirits isn't joining his Beast Coast brothers on M80 because he got an offer from DarkZero. So did Citizen, who starts his 3rd year in North America on a 3rd team, and now makes DZ 50% British if you count Kenny. And we do count Kenny. DarkZero now becomes the NA team with the longest Tier 1 career average per player. They didn't pick up a rookie this time. They wanted experience, veterancy, and people who know how to work in a team at a pro level. There's 3 major trophies and 1 Pro League title on this roster, and it might set Kenny up better to succeed as a coach getting to work with guys with this much experience. It was less than a year ago we saw Canadian and Beaulo on the same team at a major stage, and those are already days I miss, but the ideology in that camp has shifted big time, and to me, DZ are easily one of the most interesting teams in the league. Spacestation kept it simple. They broke my heart by breaking up the Forced Callout duo, but got Newers in his stead. I kind of like this. Newers is coming off a pretty good SI after 2 years of not going to LAN, and getting him in a different team environment that isn't OXG seems like it could be a good move. Spacestation just have a very specific culture that everyone on that team is bought into, and I didn't really see how Newers fit into it at first, but if he buys into it on the same level, we might bear witness to a total transformation. Are we going to get Newers unleashed, or is he going to enable someone else to do the unleashing? It's the sort of move that absolutely could push Space Station past quarterfinal status at LANs for the first time in a while, if it works out. Oxygen essentially swapped players with Spacestation and took Forest, grabbed Grixer after SR dropped him, and then took Adam from the remains of the Unwanted team from SI. Total overhaul that keeps an XSET duo together, reunites an old E-United duo from 2019, and snags a player who just got 4th of the World Championship. Instantly the most interesting team in the NAL. Tons of household names, they've all been to LAN 37 times combined, but nobody's won an international trophy yet, and everyone here is looking for a fresh start. It's the kind of revamp with a lot of potential to make a serious run, but that word has also followed these guys around for most of their careers. To see them capitalize on it with a motley crew like this would be a lot of fun. Wildcard went to the import well twice, down south to grab Dash from W7M, and across the pond to get Baby Shark from the EU Tier 2 circuit. My first thought was the deck is historically stacked against teams with import players in North America, especially players with little to no prior Tier 1 experience. Some have placed first in a stage, but none of the long list of imports to NA have ever won trophies with that team. But Wildcard have tried local Tier 1 talent, they've tried Tier 2 call-ups, they've tried 3 former world champs, and nothing's gotten them better than 4th. So trying a major champion support player from one of the hottest rosters in Brazil and a clearly promising French prospect, it might seem out of the box, but why not give it a try? Luminosity retained Eddie and Kixrow from last year's campaign, grabbed Bino from the CL4L team that made Montreal, and called up Fens, who won Element 2, and Epic, who only had to play 1 Tier 2 stage before he joined the big league. LG continues to be the destination for tons of players just above the Tier 2 line. Tons of players will go back, some get signed to bigger orgs, but thus far, they've been a very transitional team. To put together a serious run with players most teams wouldn't have considered would be a real head-turner in NA, and that seems like it's LG's goal here, especially with 3 players getting their league debuts in June. They'll just be facing a really strong upper echelon in the NAL. They've got nothing to lose, and I have a soft spot for players who've been grinding in Tier 2 forever, but their mountain slope is just steeper than most. So anything they can gain in Stage 1 would be a good foundation to build from. And lastly, Cloud9 have signed Dream, Packer, Kobe, Silent, and Giddy. 3 guys from 3 different teams in Boston, 3 guys from the old Makers core that terrorized a lot of Tier 2 and Tier 3 leagues last summer, and Giddy finally made it into Tier 1 after about 5 years of grinding. I was really curious to see if that old Makers roster would make the jump into Tier 1 last year. Adding Dream to it is arguably an upgrade, Silent gets a different dynamic after a year on LG, and now after SI, every player here has been to at least 1 LAN. It's one of those projects I don't expect to do a whole lot in their first stage, but who has the personality to quickly become a fan favorite if they perform above that expectation. And C9's a partner org, so they're going to Rio, so their first test throws them into the fire real quick. And that might set the tone for their whole year. And that's NA's moves in a nutshell. Also, for those who made it to the end, hello. It's been a minute. If you'd like more context for where I've been and what my plans are, there's a longer post in my Discord for anybody who's interested. Vertical video accounts now exist for the same content in short form, and they'll also be posted here, and you're also welcome to my Blue Sky and personal Instagram. Region recaps for South America, Asia, and Europe are all coming later this week, and then we'll see what happens from there. Hope everyone's doing well. Peace.